Hello there. We are underway in celebrating our first year anniversary. And if you don't already know about it, I'm hosting a raffle and giving away more than $2,000 worth in cash and prizes. So if you or a friend have access to an Apple product, you can enter to win. For the complete details, go to sayyesToYourSoulPodcast.com. All right, here we go with another soulful episode.
Well, what happens is we ask all the wrong questions. We say, why did this happen to me? And will it always be like this? And what if it is like this forever? And we need to ask the right questions, like, what if this is a portal to something better? What if this points me at a new and wonderful future in some way?
Hello, I'm Tessa Lynne Alburn. Welcome to the Say Yes to Your Soul podcast, where we empower women to connect with their souls and shine in their business. If you are ready to embrace your brilliance, create meaningful connections, and be compensated for your specific gifts, you're in the right place. Join us as we explore inspiring stories, practical insights, unique points of view, and soulful strategies, all to help you thrive. So let's dive on into this transformative journey together. Tune in and say yes to your soul. Hello there. Our guest today is Kathy Harmon-Luber, and I'm really happy to have her here. Kathy is a certified sound healing practitioner, a Reiki master, and a wellness guide. And her passion is helping people to navigate the challenging terrain of the healing journey. And boy, she really knows what she's talking about there. She's also teaching them to not just navigate it, but to thrive. And her best-selling book, Suffering to Thriving, Your Toolkit for Navigating Your Healing Journey, How to Live a More Healthy, Peaceful, Joyful Life, is full of wisdom gleaned from decades, healing from debilitating health crises. Kathy's in Yoga Magazine, Authority Magazine, MindBodyGreen.com, Elephant Journal, Pretty Woman Hustle Magazine, Woman's World Magazine, and numerous podcasts. I think you're going to love her. My Scorpio sister. So, Kathy, welcome to Say Yes to Your Soul.
Hi, Tessa. I am so happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Likewise. Yay. You know, we had so much fun getting to know one another, and maybe some of that will show up today, but it's one of those fun things when you meet somebody and there's so many synchronous things that have happened in one's life or similar things. So I'm really excited for you to share your story, your healing journey with our audience here today. And I'd love for you to give them a taste and then take them into the darkness.
Yeah, I know. It's quite a story, like you alluded to. My book came out of decades and decades of my own healing journey. You know, I'm writing about and guiding people on a journey that I know rather intimately. For decades, I've had very serious spinal issues. They're hereditary diseases, 7 of them. I've had autoimmune diseases, and I have gone through the dark nights of the soul. I have been to that place of suffering. And over many years of trying different modalities and complementary medicine, always in, collaboration with Western medicine, finding a path forward from that place of terrible suffering to a place where I'm happy to say I'm thriving today, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And the thing that has been so amazing to me is if you had asked me before some of these big health crises had happened, I was living the life of my dreams. I really was. Didn't think life could get any better. Big challenges happen in our lives, whether they're physical healing. Many of us go through mental and emotional things. Sometimes they're disruptions like losing a job or divorce or death of a loved one. All of these kinds of disruptions in our lives can help point us to a new life purpose, hearing our soul's calling, if you will. I love to talk about this because having been in that dark place, you don't see that. Like so often you're like, is it going to be like this forever? What happens is we ask all the wrong questions. We say, why did this happen to me? And will it always be like this? And what if it is like this forever? And we need to ask the right questions, like, what if this is a portal to something better? What if this points me at a new and wonderful future in some way? And so I like to talk about this as our healing journey is embedded in our life's journey, of course. And that is embedded in our soul's journey. And it is through this portal of healing that we often find the life of our dreams and begin to fulfill our life's purpose.
Beautiful. And I know that you're doing that today. You really went through the gauntlet and overcame a lot of things. Like you mentioned, 7 spinal surgeries. Or you had, wait a second, you had 7
surgeries. Yeah.
Yes.
Unfortunately, not operable. That was part of the big challenge.
Oh.
Because of the complexity of these interweaving kind of diseases, if you will, and other connective tissue diseases and all, I wasn't a candidate for surgery, which, often we think, you get the surgery and you go on the road to recovery and you get better. And that wasn't the case in this.
Okay, so let's back up because I'm missing some pieces and I want to make sure that all our listeners can follow this crazy health story of yours. So like you were living the life that, that was really great. You were having a good time. You're in your 20s at some point, right?
Yeah.
What happened?
21 years old, again, living the life of my dreams. I began to have serious spinal issues, more serious than just hurting your back or having a backache, things that really had me down for the count for like a couple weeks or at one point a month, flat on my back. I missed work. I missed all kinds of things in life. But doctors told me I had the spine, at 21 years old, I had the spine of an 80-year-old woman. And I was like, okay, one doctor told me I would be in a wheelchair by my mid-30s.
Oh,
I'm not, by the way, and I'm older than that. So it's one of those things that I realized I had a problem, but I was really young, and I thought, well, I'm just going to, I don't want to own this. I'm going to find as many alternate complementary ways of working with my medical doctors as I can. At that young age, I don't know. I just had this idea that somehow none of those things that they predicted were going to come true for me. I wanted to have a different life. And so I began doing yoga. I began getting, massages and acupuncture and lots of different things, supplementation, many different things. And you know what? I managed it until I was 42 and I was working out at the gym with a personal trainer and the first disc ruptured. And again, because my spine is very complicated, they said, most people will heal. We're just going to make you rest a whole lot. After 3 months or so, 4 months maybe, I was back to my job. I was back to being very active. I was a very active walker. I had been a runner, didn't get back to running so quickly. Biking, dancing, all the things I loved. Fast forward again to 2016. And now, I had all of the intuitive, I would say, warnings. I had all the intuitive warnings in 2016. Shouldn't have gone on that road trip. Probably shouldn't have gone on a business trip that involved several hours in a car. Probably shouldn't have photographed a friend's wedding. many, many things. I was doing quite a lot. I had a full-time job in addition to performing classical flute on weekends. My back hurt really bad when I played my flute, and I didn't want to give it up. I didn't want to give up any of these things. And so I just kept pushing, like so many of us do.
Well, that is, yeah,
right.
That's the thing. It's the push through mentality that then gets us into trouble. Yeah,
exactly. Every time it gets us into trouble, doesn't it? And so that's what happened. I just kept pushing, and I went on a business trip. It was a couple days. It was a long road trip, and I was standing in the kitchen one day, the next day, after getting back, talking to my husband, making a cup of coffee, and horribly severe pain in my lower spine. He had to help me to get to bed. I laid down. I could not move. And it got worse and worse and worse. And I thought, okay, I know what this is. This is another disc rupture. It was the fourth one. I knew how this story went. And I thought, all right, 2 to 3 or 4 months and I'll be back. I just have to rest. Got it. I got the message. Except that's not what happened. I ended up being bedridden for 5 years. It was disastrous. I couldn't.
It is. Wait a second. You can't just keep talking. I mean,
right?
Bedridden. You went from like this really full, active life. You'd already overcome many challenges and defied doctors,
right.
Ill wishes or predictions. I shouldn't say they wished that, but they predicted incorrectly. Yeah. But,
right.
And you're living and you're like managing, and you're like, sure, I'll just manage, 2 to 4 months. I'll be back and going. And then bam, this wasn't a month this time. This was 5 years in bed. I have to know, like, what was the moment like when you realized I'm actually in bed? I'm not getting out of this for a while.
Devastating. I could walk, about 6 steps, maybe a couple more, 8 steps to the master bath, and in howling pain and with the assistance of my husband. Like, I couldn't walk to the bedroom door for months. Okay. That's how bad it was. I couldn't do anything. Like, I was a mess, and it had never been this bad. And, I had wonderful doctors and a neurosurgeon and everyone, I did consults with, and they're like, you can't have surgery. And so the best thing you can do is just to continue to rest. And I said, how long is it going to be? And they said, we can't answer that. It could be 6 months. It could be 3 years. And I said, I'll never forget this. I said this to the neurosurgeon, Tess, I said, I am an overachiever. I'm sure it'll be just a few months. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to do this.
Oh my goodness.
Except big wake up call from the universe. It wasn't that easy. And it was devastating, as you can imagine,
Yes.
I had to let go of everything in my life. My work. I was on 3 boards of directors in our local community. And like I said, I played classical flute every weekend. I'm an award-winning photographer. I had to stop doing photography. I couldn't stand at my easel and paint. I gave up everything. And the darkness sets in. And part of what got me through it was, I began collecting inspiring quotes on my computer. I could put my laptop on my stomach, and that was about all I could do. And so I started keeping this little journal, and I'd put in inspiring quotes. I think along the lines of, Deepak Chopra and Wayne Dyer and Pema Chodron and lots of people. And their quotes appear in my book, because they got me through. And so I started keeping this journal of things I was trying, from different supplements to tracking my progress, because I find there was a point when I couldn't walk 20 steps. And then there came the day when I could walk 25, and so it's this microscopic progress compared to what, I was hiking in our mountains on weekends prior to this happening.
Oh my goodness.
Just prior to it happening. I was swimming 3 hours a week. I couldn't walk to the bedroom door. So I had to latch on to something. So I started writing about it. I started collecting these quotes, and I realized very quickly that in every moment, we have a choice. I went down the dark rabbit hole of despair. When I say dark night of the soul, I'm not kidding. It was horrible. I got help. I got the help I needed. And to our listeners, I just want to say, if you're in a very dark place, it's not a weakness. It's a strength to ask for help. Get the help that you need. And so I started there from that point for a short time. And then I realized that every moment is a choice. I could either be miserable and suffer in my mind 24/7 and become a bitter, angry old woman one day, or I could choose another way. And I decided every day to choose joy. And this is what I call making our mind our medicine, because we can go down the dark path. We can wallow in it. We can wallow in self-pity and despair and see no light at the end of the tunnel. It's really easy sometimes in life to get to that place.
It's far too easy to do that.
Yeah,
yes.
Right? Yeah, exactly. But if we can really discipline our minds to, I'm not talking about fake positivity. I'm talking about, what can I find today that will bring me joy? I did a lot of reading. I listened to music. I've always been a musician since I was a wee little girl of 3 years old. And I love music. I listen to music. And sound healing, we know that listening to music is healing. I decided
I would do the right kind of music.
It has to be music you love. That's the key. It's music you love. We all think, oh, it must be classical music, right? Because it's so pretty. But, if you love jazz, hip hop, R&B, any kind of music, if it speaks to your soul, it's healing for you. And when I say, make your mind your medicine, it's like any medicine that we choose. We are all unique. Every one of us is different. My medicine is nature. I live on a mountain. Nature is part of my medicine. Music and sound healing are my medicine. Art, creativity, those things are my medicine. Certain kinds of music are my medicine. And so everyone has to ask themselves, what is it that brings me joy? Follow that curiosity. And that is listening to our hearts. It's listening to intuition, but it boils down to, what is our heart whispering? We've got to get slow. We've got to unplug the devices. We've got to be, quiet and just settle into this. And when you're in a bad place, sometimes that's scary. But if we can try to find one thing that will bring us joy in that moment and build on that. And there's a quote that I love, and I can't remember who to attribute to. I think it's one of my favorite poets, David White. But what can I do today that my future self will thank me for? And that's not sitting here feeling sorry for myself. It was reading, taking classes online, asking the right questions, like I was alluding to earlier. Not what's going to happen to me, but okay, let's say this is going to take a while. What can I let go of that doesn't serve me? And in doing that, what does that make room for that I'm passionate about, that brings me joy? What if this is a time of discovery to learn new things? Most of us in life, if we're busy working or raising families, we don't always have time to take a long pause and just explore what we want to do, like what we want to learn, what we want to be curious about. That hasn't happened in my life except in this particular situation. And I thought, well, how can I make the best of this moment, however long it lasts? And what is it that I want to learn and grow? How do I want to grow as a human being? How does my soul want to grow? And when we get quiet and we start having those conversations with ourselves, saying to your heart, my beautiful, hardworking heart, I'm listening. What do you have to say to me? And it isn't always a linear conversation, as you know, probably, right?
Yes.
It's more like you ask the question and you ask it again and you ask it again. and it shows up in your dreams or as you're writing or
Doing the dishes.
Conversation. Exactly. Anything like that where our minds aren't necessarily engaged in the thinking of the answer. Sometimes the answers, they come up.
Kathy, at that point in lying there in your bed and looking for the joy, this, that, and the other, getting yourself inspired daily, at what point do you feel like you were really starting to hear your soul and you were realizing you were talking with your soul?
I think I was probably a couple or 3 months into it before it really started to occur to me. Up until then, I was not in a good place. And I was trying to be, but it wasn't working so well. And then just one day that light came on. It's like, you've got a choice here, Kathy. You can just, you've had your little pity party here. You can live in that, or you can find a different way. And then I started just getting really curious. It's like, well, what does that mean now? What could that be? Asking those right questions. And then I started thinking about it as this is my soul's journey. This is happening for a reason. It's like an initiation. It's like, an initiation that happens in so many times in our lives where it's a test. Which way are you going to go? You could just curl up and hide under the sheets forever. Sure. But what if this is something different? What if it's stretching boundaries? And it was. I couldn't do anything physical. So I had to start looking at things from the standpoint of not inability, but ability. What can I do? So I literally made this list. Okay, so I wrote down on the left-hand column of my computer document, I wrote down, okay, I cannot hike, I cannot swim, I cannot go for walks, I can't run, I can't play my flute, I can't get to the kitchen, I can't get outside to our deck. I can't. And I can't stand at my easel. And on the right-hand side, I made a column. Okay, I can't play my classical flute, but I've got a couple of Native American flutes and they don't twist my back. So I said to my husband, go to my office studio and find a Native American flute and bring it. I'm going to see if I can play it. I could play it laying on my back. So it was like, okay, there's music in my life.
Nice.
I couldn't ride horses, but I could draw horses. So I started drawing horses. And it sounds really silly, right? Okay, right? You can't ride horses, but you're going to draw them. You're going to find that
Well, I think what's
fun.
what I'm noticing is, I think what's a really interesting thing here is that if somebody were told, you can't ride horses, so why don't you draw them? You'd be like, screw you. Like, that's not an answer. Right? But you knew this came from within you, and you were open, and you were curious, and you're like, I want to experience joy. And so all these things helped support you in saying yes to that activity. Whereas before you would have just completely laughed at it or dismissed it.
Oh, I would have. I totally would have. I was like, forget that. That is not a good substitute. But so it wasn't only horses. I just began to lean into drawing. I could just prop it up on my stomach and draw. And so that became something that I enjoyed exploring. In my life of being a very busy nonprofit executive, my whole career, it's like, I didn't have much time to read all the books I ever wanted to read or take online classes or anything else. And I just began to see it as, wow, this is kind of fun. I have like this free pass to read all the books I want. And so I started, you feel the energy shift as I say that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
It's like I started getting curious and saying, all right, that's not bad. I have, a stack of like 100 books I'd like to read on my wish list and, some movies and things like that. So I filled my time with things that filled me up. And it was only by letting go and surrendering. And by surrender, I don't mean giving up, of course. I mean when we surrender and say, okay, I need to float in the river of life right now and not try to swim upstream or beat myself up for not being able to swim upstream fast enough, because I can't do that. I have to float in the river of life. And once we start doing that, it is just so fascinating to me that doors begin opening, opportunities come up, and they feed our soul, right? And so that is the path of curiosity. I began listening to my heart more, and I was very lit up by things that I was exploring. And that just led one thing after another, to new rabbit holes, I guess, to explore. And that felt good. And then at some point, years into it, like we're maybe around the 3-year mark, I can't exactly remember, but when doctors said, well, it isn't going to be just, 6 months to 3 years. This is taking longer and you're doing everything right. You're doing everything right. There's nothing more that you can do. It's taking longer. I realized, okay, well, I'm never going to get back to that old life, I don't think. I probably need to start thinking about, like, what does life look like going forward? Like, what would I like to do if this is all I get? If I can never walk again, which I'm delighted to say I can walk.
You can,
not
yes.
bedridden. I can walk. I can do things. But at that point, I didn't know that. And I said to myself, if I will never walk again, if I'm going to be stuck here, bedridden, and out of bed for just a few minutes a day, basically, what does my life look like? That in a way that not the bad, what does my life look like, but the good, what if? Like, what if I can think of other things I'd like to do that'll keep me fulfilled for the rest of my life? And those things became sound healing, meditation, visualization and journeying, art, music. All the things that I love are now the life that I have. And then right around that 2 to 3 year mark, I looked back at this journal I was now keeping on my computer and said, there's a lot of wisdom here to share with other people. And I've always been a very service-oriented kind of person. I've always worked at nonprofits, like I said, make the world a good place. And I thought to myself, I never wanted to write a book, but if I wrote this into a book, which was beginning to take shape in my head, if it helps one person, my job here is done. If I help one person get through something like this, I will feel very good about the book. And as it turns out, it's helped a lot more than that. And that is thrilling, absolutely thrilling. But that's when that path opened up to me. And I saw that as a soul path, to be able to take whatever, horrible suffering I went through, turn it into thriving, and then share it with the world. That felt like a life purpose. And there's this wonderful quote I want to share with you by Lynne de Botton. He said, we should not feel embarrassed by our difficulties, only by our failure to grow anything beautiful from them. And that is the path of the soul.
I
right?
love that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the beauty in everything. And I mean, I think this is a key part of your message. And, there's the struggle and overcoming or surrendering through the struggle. But it's really about the deeper gifts, but not just trying to ask, what's the gift here? What's the gift here? What's so great about this? It really is going more micro than that and taking it a step at a time and connecting with your heart deeply inside so that you have that guidance for the next question, so that you have that good feeling. And you also, and you didn't really speak to this, but I know it's part of your method, which is to be intentional, right? Like you
yes.
knew exactly what you wanted to be experiencing, and you never lost sight of that.
That's right. And that's hard. It is making the commitment every day to what is sacred to you, and being willing to commit to it and fight for it if you have to. And by sacred, I mean, like for me, it was that intention, I intend to heal from this. Our bodies are so wise. We can heal. We can heal our bodies. I have reversed autoimmune diseases that my, rheumatologist looked at me and said, I don't know what you did, but like that doesn't happen. People don't do this. But I set the intention years ago. I intend to heal. And
Yes.
It can be that simple. That's a really simple intention. I intend to heal. That works for everything. It works for emotional healing. It works for healing from trauma. It is opening the door to the possibility, right? In the world,
right.
There are infinite possibilities, as we know. Stating the intention walks you through the portal toward those infinite possibilities. It is taking that first step. And what I like to say is change, or alchemy, if you will, of any kind begins with like one breath, one thought, one intention, one prayer, one step. That's how it begins. And then the next day, the next step, the next prayer, the next intention, right? It's like every day having that intention front and center in your life. And we all, like, there were times when it was one step forward and 5 steps back,
Sure.
Like, I'd be making great progress. And then it was like, wow, that didn't go well. Something happened and I was smacked back a bit, but not losing sight of the end goal, and not judging, not measuring linearly as every single day I have to make a progress, knowing that it is a dance. Sometimes it's forward, sometimes it's back. But keeping that forward trajectory is what is important.
Yes, the forward trajectory is important, because if we're not doing that, then we are going back. So we have to be in motion one direction or the other. And so I like to think of it like a spiral, right? We're like going up the spiral, and then we come around to a certain point, and the view seems to be pretty much the same, only it's slightly different. We're at a different place on the spiral. We're maybe we'll call it higher up.
That's right.
All right. And then we go around and we go around again. We come around to that same viewpoint. We're like, what's changed? But actually a lot changes the higher we go into those new viewpoints. Even though we might be looking at the exact same thing, the way we see it is going to be changed.
Ooh, yes, definitely. I love that. Yeah, it's a spiral for sure.
Yeah.
And everything is incremental. So what I try to always keep in my mind to this day is we don't always make giant steps forward. Sometimes healing is amazing and giant steps. I've had that happen too. And sometimes it's not. And not to lose sight of the fact that everything is incremental. If you're making little baby steps every day, you're going to get to that place eventually. It might take longer, but you'll get there. And we lose hope. I mean, we're human beings. We're having a human being experience here. And we do. It's easy to lose hope when...
Well, that's full of judgments, right? And expectations. So we have all these things externally we think are pointing at us or to us to suddenly get it and suddenly be perfect. But that's unreasonable. And if we were perfect, we would just go to the next level. We'd give up this body probably, unless we'd stay as a saint on this plane, to support other human beings. But I don't know that we have any living saints right now. We might, but that's pretty rare. So we're all here learning and growing, and we get to choose our method. And you chose joy.
Exactly. And just to follow that up, okay, so like I was saying, every moment in life is a choice, and I chose joy. But there's also Pema Chodron, the Buddhist nun, I just adore her. She's very plain speaking, right? It's easy to understand. she puts it very simply, and I quote her in the book too, that everything in life is a choice between love or fear. How does love decide? So that's my litmus test. As I go through my day, if I'm having a moment where I am full of fear about the future, and look, we live in a world right now where it's easy to be consumed by fear. We look at the news, we look at our personal lives, we look at the planet and the environment. It's easy to live in a place of fear. But how would love decide? That is a choice between saying, I'm going to look for something that does bring me joy, or I'm going to go hug my dog or my kid or my partner or whatever and focus on love. Sure, that's part of it. But the other part is, and especially for those on the healing journey, how would love decide means don't sit around thinking about how bad your diagnosis is and all the terrible things that can happen. We have to be real about it. We have to face it. We have to do what's right for ourselves. But to sit around and stew in fear is not healthy for us, number one. And then what would love do? Well, love would say, follow robust care, self-love. And that's not, if you're a woman painting your fingernails and taking a bubble bath, that's not self-love.
No.
It's like maybe right now, if you get quiet and you listen to your heart or to your body, or you do a body scan, your body says, I am so exhausted. I need a rest. I just need a rest. Take the day off and rest. It's that kind of self-care.
Yes.
It's doing things that are nourishing for your soul, but then sometimes it's hibernating. And like I have gone through actually recently, it's wintertime and I live on a mountain, so it's very cold and it feels like it's time to hibernate. And I have been sleeping more, resting more throughout the day as I can. We still all have busy lives, but you can take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour to do something good for yourself. I had mentioned sound healing is part of my daily practice. I can't sit around, all day and do sound healing, but every hour on the hour, I can take 3 deep breaths and I can use my Tibetan bowl, or I can pull out a zephyr chime or a native flute and play for 5 minutes or 3 minutes, and that is self-care, right? And so everybody has to find what brings them self-care, but it comes from that deep listening we were talking about earlier.
Yes, indeed. Kathy, one moment, please.
I love it.
There's a little self-care moment.
That's
yes.
Beautiful.
One of my beautiful bells.
And feel how that changes the energy, Tessa, right? It just changes the energy. It's like a reset.
Yes.
And I find that's a lovely tip for our listeners. Like, every now and then I'll be working on a project on deadline and I'll be getting a little stressed out because the deadline's approaching. But I always have time to bring out a zephyr chime or another little bell or a Tibetan bowl, and even just ringing it 3 times, it takes all of 1 minute or less, but it changes the energy of the room. It changes the energy within myself. And it brings us back to that place of grounding and connection.
I totally agree. Yes. For me, it's really connecting to my soul. Like I know that there's something special that my soul loves about that sound. And so it just is, when I ring that bell.
Yes,
it's
exactly.
Perfect. And I know them when I hear them. I love little light chimes and I love certain ones, not all of them, but when I hear it, I'm like, that's it. And I have a physical response. Yes. Kathy. We knew this when we met the first time. We knew that we could talk forever. I would love for you to you just gave a tip, but is there anything else you want to just remind people of before we get into how they can connect with you?
I'd love to. Yes. Okay. So I did allude to this a little earlier, and I want to come back around with that whole notion of our healing journey, embedded in our life's journey, embedded in our soul's journey. I believe, Tessa, every person on the planet who's alive right now is here for a reason. That maybe we can't change the world, any one of us, all by ourselves. But when every one of us finds that gift that is our soul's gift, life is about finding that gift and bringing it forward in service to the world. It might be in service to your community or to your own family. But whatever that service is, everyone has a gift. And that gift is needed in our world today more than ever before. And the way we can often find it is through these health challenges and other crises in our lives. And so it's easy to just say, oh, I'm going through this terrible thing. But it is the biggest gift in the world to take the time to find the treasure in it and find your gift and bring it forward in the world. And everyone has that gift and everyone is needed right now. I would just leave us with that.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for that, Kathy. Please share with everyone how they can connect with you.
Oh, thank you. Yes. All right. The easiest way to connect with me is at my website, sufferingtothriving.com. That's all one word, sufferingtothriving.com. There, listeners can connect to my social media. They can scroll down my homepage, and I have a number of articles on intuition and sound healing, making your mind your medicine, that appeared in Yoga Magazine, and some of those others you mentioned at the top of the show are free for people to read there. And I also have a wonderful free new offering that we just put up on the website. Of Doctor of Functional Medicine, Dr. Charlize Davis, and I have put together a module called Healing the Heart Chakra with Vibrational Energy, and that is sound healing as well as Reiki energy. And she talks about it from the medical standpoint, and I bring in the chakra work and the sound healing, and we're both Reiki masters, actually, so it's infused with all of that.
Oh, beautiful.
It includes a free sound bath that I think our listeners will be.
Well, I'm on that. I'm like, I'm on it. That sounds amazing and just a beautiful, beautiful gift. So thank you for letting us know about that. And once again, it's sufferingtothriving.com. And if you forget, it's in the show notes. All right. So Kathy, I'm just delighted that you've been able to be here and that you shared so much of your story and your inner thoughts and processes about how you came out of being flat on your back to being just an absolute beacon of light in the world today. Thank you for being here with our listeners and with me. It's been an honor.
Thank you, Tessa. Likewise, it's been an honor and an absolute joy talking to you. I've so enjoyed this.
All right. We will say goodbye for now. May you know love. Till the next time.
All right. Thank you for joining us for this week's delicious episode. Before you jump off, I wanted to remind you to get entered in the raffle this month because I'm giving away more than $2,000 worth of prizes in both private sessions and actual cash. What are those prizes, you ask? Well, one of them is a private 75-minute soul light healing session with me. And that can be healing on various levels. It might be releasing trauma or tuning up your body or your emotions or clearing things like past lives and karma that's been, energetic debris holding you back. This session can be very helpful and sometimes have dramatic results in relationships, money, and in your health. And we're going to do that together on Zoom, so it doesn't matter where you live. The second prize is a 60-minute coaching session with me, and that's also going to be on Zoom. So if you want support or clarity for your goals, like help with getting started with a project or just creating an action plan, that is going to be an amazing session. You'll be surprised at how much you come away with. The third prize is a personalized meditation that I will design especially for you. And of course, it's going to be yours to keep. So it's going to be fully personalized in terms of the content, and I will be speaking just to you so that you will be able to resonate with it and receive the maximum benefits that you want to create. Okay, now for the fun stuff, the cash. I have several cash prizes in various amounts. I've got several $50 prizes, $75 prizes, and $100 prizes. So you can see there are many opportunities to win here, and I just want to encourage you to be sure to play because you do need to play to win. All monetary prizes will be delivered through PayPal or Wise, and if you have a different currency, it'll be automatically converted for you. So as long as you have access to an Apple device, you can play. And all the instructions are available on our website at sayyesToYourSoulPodcast.com. That's sayyesToYourSoulPodcast.com. And if you need any support in completing your raffle entry, my team is ready to help you with that. You'll find their email on our webpage as well. So that's it. All the best to you, and may you say yes to your soul.